Hi, in this video we're going to continue with lesson 9 and we're going to look at two more columns on our frequency distribution. And what I've done is up above here, up above, this is the frequency distribution that we made in the last video. Just copied it, shrunk it a little bit, and then I've put this one down below and we're going to add two new columns. And this time what they're going to be is they're going to be a relative frequency and a relative cumulative frequency. And what relative is, it means putting the numbers, the frequencies, into percentages. We're going to write the frequencies as percentages now. So here we go. Let's try this. I'm going to have to move around a bit, but let's just start with the first class, which has a frequency of 3. So if we'll come down here, we're going to calculate the, actually I think we can write it right there. So notice that my relative frequency, well, what I do is I say there's 3 out of 11 values in my first class. So I can write that as 3 divided by 11 times 100%. And so I actually don't have that memorized, so I'm going to go over here to Good Grapher. And let's take 3. We'll divide that by 11. That's going to give me 27. And notice if I multiply that by 100 times 100, now I take my information to the nearest tenth. So that's going to be 27.3%. All right, we're going to go back to our pictures. And here we go. So that is 27.3%. And then what we do is we'll just continue this process. Now we know the next one because in our next class we have the same frequency, so we know that one is also 27.3%. And then let's come our third class. Now the third class has 4 values, and so it represents 4 out of the 11 total data values. Well, to turn 4/11ths into a percentage, we take 4, oops, not 3, we take a 4, we divide it by the 11, we multiply it by 100%. So, since I've made mistakes in my head, I'm going to go over to Good Grapher. Let's see what Good Grapher says. We take 4, we're going to divide that by the 11 and multiply it by 100, and then we're going to round that to the nearest tenth of a percent. So we have 36.36. So that means the 3 is in the tenths position. I'm going to round that, but we have a 6 after it, so we're going to write that as 36.4. All right, back we go. 36.4. 36.4%. Okay, now this next one I can do in my head, and that is because it had a frequency of 0 out of the 11 data values, and I am really good at this. 0 divided by 11 times 100%. You can always check me, but I am comfortable saying that is 0%. And then, see, our last one had a frequency of 1. So that meant that in this last class represents 1 out of the 11 data values. So that's 1 divided by 11 multiplied by 100%. So let's go back to Good Grapher. See what we find. We have 1. We're going to divide that by 11, and then we're going to multiply that by 100. And our result is 9.09, and then that repeats. We're going to round that to 9.1. 9.1, okay? So go back here. So this is 9.1%. Now, I'm going to add these up. Let's look at a relative cumulative frequency. It says you just add the relative frequencies, and it follows the same process as it did for just the cumulative frequency, starting with the class with the lowest amounts and ending with the highest class. So our first class was 27.3% of the data, but moving up by the time we've looked at all the second class, that's accounted for the 27.3 plus this 27.3. So that's going to give me a total of 54.6% of the data. Then when we look at the next column, well, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be adding in this 36.4%. And so when we do that, that's going to take us all the way up to 91%. 91.0%. And we're going to add, now the next time we add the 0 to that, which won't change anything, so we're still at 91%. And then we add our next group, and this is going to put us at 100.1%. Now, ideally, this last number, let's take a look, this last number of 100.1 should be 100. However, because of rounding error, sometimes you'll end at 100.1, and sometimes you'll end at 99.9. And if you're that close, then what you're seeing is simply rounding error, and it's not a concern. If you end quite off of 100, like maybe 101 or 98, then you know that there was some kind of a rounding error or a calculator error that was made in the process. And then what you'd want to do is go back and check your work. And that is how you make a frequency distribution having relative frequency columns. Hope that helps, and thank you for watching.